Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore, Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore, Baltimore.
Welcome to Something Came from Baltimore. My name is Tom Gacker, and on this episode, we are talking to Orrin Evans. I always love chatting with him, and today we are going to talk about his new album, The Magic of Now. First, let's listen to a song off the album. It's called Levels. Welcome to Something Came from Baltimore.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure, especially since I love Baltimore. I got to figure out where it falls because I have like my hometown and then my second hometown, my third. So I guess it's in between like my fourth and fifth, Baltimore and Seattle. So I'll give them both love.
Yeah, and you're always welcome.
Oh, thank you.
The last time we talked was last year. We were talking about the intangible between, and it was a really fun interview. It actually was my second largest listened to video. I think I got passed on a lot, where you were driving in your car and we were doing our interview.
Yep, I loved it. I've listened. I forgot about it, and then I listened, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is great."
Yeah, it's something that you don't expect. I was kind of hoping you were in a car today, but what's good about that is that I never really have an opportunity to follow up with people, from that last interview. So if people want to listen to the last interview and start this one, we were just in COVID time period. It was just a couple months. You were deciding, should you do live streams? Should you, drive a taxi? Should you, you were in a place. So you weren't really sure what you were going to do. What happened in general? What did you decide to do?
Well, I did a lot. I did embrace the live stream world, and I put together a series called Club Patio. I really just had a great time, presenting music live on my patio. And then NPR heard about what I was doing and did a feature on what I was doing along with two other people who were presenting music in their houses. And a bunch of musicians came out to help me. Buster Williams did one. Robin Eubanks did the last one the other day. Greg Osby, Nasheet Waits. I mean, just a really Jeff Tain Watts, Jonathan Blake, Desron Douglas. I mean, so many people came through and helped me get the series together. And the Pittsburgh Jazz Festival supported it, and they got me through this last summer. Then we went into doing donations for this year. And I mean, it just really was a fun thing to do. It kept us all together in a safe environment. We did an outside thing for last year and this year, and thank God no one got sick. I mean, that is definitely, even now, that's definitely a possibility. I mean, mostly we kept to a vaccinated crowd, but that doesn't, at this point, as we all see, that doesn't really mean anything. So I'm glad we got through it safely. Everyone's healthy, and I presented music. Luckily I did get my Uber license, but I didn't do it. I got it, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I just found a way to make, and to be honest, it wasn't always a financial thing, like let me Uber or let me do this. It was more so I need a goal. I'm a goal-oriented person, so it's like, all right, I'm practicing this music for this record date. I'm working on this for this. I'm doing this for this. Everything I have to have, a point. So I know a lot of people locked themselves in their house and practiced their instrument and worked on whatever, and now they're like, they sound amazing, or they've worked on this great, amazing piece, and that's beautiful. I envy those people, but I couldn't do it because I was like, well, wait a minute, why am I doing this? Nothing. When are the stages opening up? Do I have a record date? Blah, blah, blah. So Club Patio gave me a purpose. I had something to do that I could see the fruit of my labor. And that's just me personally. I mean, I'm not saying that's everyone else's story. That's my story. So that's what I did. And also within that, I bought a new house. I'm sitting here talking to you now in a different house. At the beginning of COVID, I never thought I'd move. We moved. We sold our old house to my youngest son, moved into a new house. And the reason I was 2 minutes late for this interview is because I was talking to the contractor to help me build some stuff outside. So I found some purpose.
Yeah, you stay busy. I did see you have a lot of live streams available. There's one thing that I saw is that there was a release of Charlie Porter's Hindsight album. I interviewed him on March 7th and you worked with him. That may be pre-COVID, but that...
No. That was during COVID.
Oh, well, what a great album.
I wasn't super familiar with Charlie. I hadn't even met him before we did that record. He called me a while earlier to do it, and it was an intense record. I mean, he had all these keyboard parts, all this stuff, and I wasn't really dealing with that at that time. I mean, as far as checking all of that, the keyboard parts, and actually it was a great saxophonist who did most of the keyboard parts, and I just played piano. But I didn't really know who he was at all. I hadn't really checked him out. I was familiar because a lot of people in my big band were familiar with him. So going into that record date, I had no idea where it was going. And when I finally listened to the record and saw it all together, I was really impressed by every single part of it. I mean, even how he handled the studio and that session. I was so impressed at the session that the next day I hired him to play the Blue Note with me. And we did I had a ball playing at the Blue Note with him on trumpet joining my quartet.
We're going to get into this album. It's The Magic of Now, just released on July 23rd, 2021 on the Smoke Session Records. People are waiting for an Emmanuel Wilkins album to come out. And in theory, he's given a lot of room to breathe on this album. In fact, everyone's has a lot of room to breathe. And if they're waiting for a new album, I'd say check this album out. He has a great footprint on it. I picked out 4 songs, the ones that really grabbed me, and I keep on, how you look into Spotify and then you look at your phone and go, what is that song? And then you're going again, oh my God, it keeps on doing it to me. It's and I may say this name, it's the first song on the album, Mina, the 11th Hour.
That's great. That's 2 different, you said it perfect. It's actually 2 different songs. Yeah. Mina is Bill Stewart's tune and 11th Hour is Mulgrew Miller's tune.
We're going to play, I guess we'll play the 11th Hour. Do you have anything to say about that recording? Do you remember?
No. So you're going to play the 11th Hour and not Mina, or are you going to play them both together?
Just well, I'm going to play like 30 seconds of something.
Gotcha.
No, which one do you want me to? Which one you want me to play? Which one has a story behind it?
Neither one of them. I mean, the story behind it is real simple. The story behind it is Mulgrew Miller and the 11th Hour comes from the band Wingspan that I loved, and Mulgrew was definitely an amazing inspiration to me. And at my roommate when I moved to New York was Dwayne Eubanks, and he was playing with Mulgrew, so he had all these Mulgrew charts. So I've been playing that tune and waiting for the opportunity. And I can't even say this. I was waiting for the opportunity to record it, but that's not true because it still wasn't supposed to be a recording. I used to just use it as an opportunity to play it. And the way that we, when people listen to the record, Mina, we were playing, and the reason those two tunes are together is because Emmanuel just started playing the melody of 11th Hour. I looked at him and he started playing it right away. So there's no way to edit it, which shows you that it was a live gig and not a record date. So those two songs end up going together, and I'm going to try to play them together at all times.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. It just starts off the whole album. The same deal with The Poor Fisherman. I feel that, everyone in the band is given an opportunity to shine, and it just has a great vibe to it. Do you have any thoughts on The Fisherman?
I mean, all of that was just, I played that tune earlier with Emmanuel, earlier gig, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, maybe not even that long ago, maybe a year and a half ago. But I've always enjoyed his compositions and the way he looks at it. Emmanuel writes like the way that I would like to write. I have a few people that I love playing their compositions because they write like what I would like to write like, and instead of like, oh, let me write a tune and copy off yours, I'll just play your tune and really learn from you and how you compose. So that was the beauty of all of, not just The Poor Fisherman, but Levels and Mama Loves. It was really fun to play somebody else's music.
Mhm.
It's a lot of responsibility being a leader. And if you can walk in and you're just like, all right, well, I don't have to worry about this, I can actually just worry about whether there's bodies in the audience, whether ticket sales, whether the band is happy. And these tunes, oh, these are cool. I can play this other person's tune. And I like, and fine, I also like playing other people's tunes, but playing them in a way that I would play them. Like, I don't know if Emmanuel would play it exactly the way we played it because we took some liberties.
Mhm.
But I like that. I mean, that's why in 2007, I did a record of all of Bobby Watson's music. After being in his band for so long, I was like, I want to play the music the way that I like, because there were times I would play with him. And it happens because Bobby had been playing that music for so long. You get caught into a way that you play it. You do this ending, you do this. And I was like, oh, let's try this. So instead of doing that on Bobby's bandstand, I did it on mine, but it was still a tribute to him playing his music. So basically, all of these tunes, including Poor Fisherman, it was just great to play someone else's music and be inspired by their compositional skills.
And if I would look at this album, there's two kind of radio hits, and Libra to me is should be on the airwaves right now.
Oh man, appreciate it.
Yeah, what's can you? I like to play a sample of it. Do you have any background on it?
That was written for my sister, actually. Maybe one Christmas, I think I was maybe 19. I couldn't afford to buy everybody gifts, so I wrote everybody a song. And I've recorded the one I composed for my mother. I recorded the one I composed for my father. I recorded the one that I wrote for my sister, which is Libra. But there's 3 more out there. I wrote one for my brother, and I composed one for my 2 nephews, and I haven't recorded that yet.
Wow, what a great song. And that's pretty impressive that you were 19 years old because it's beautiful.
Oh,
So,
thank you. Thank
good
you.
job. Now, who's Dave?
Who is Dave? Is the
Who is
question.
Dave?
You know, and you know, I'll be even more honest. This goes along my whole self-help thing. Sometimes people see what they want to see, and then that becomes their truth.
Wow.
No matter what, you know, what else is happening around, it's like this is what's happening. And sometimes I applaud people like that because I can be distracted by, you know, the real truth. And I want everyone to pay attention. Like, no, this is really what's happening. But they keep seeing this. And, you know, that's because that's more comfortable for them to deal with. And I may not be able to go to any family events after saying that, but that was written for my mother-in-law. And not that she takes it to that degree, but there's funny things where she'll see something and it'll become her truth. So we had, it was Christmas holiday. This is a few years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I had a friend of mine, Bill McHenry, great saxophonist, staying at my house. And I started composing this tune, and it was just like this little haunting tune, which was Dave. Bill started playing with me on saxophone. It was like, you know, we're just in the house. It's Christmas time. And then we stopped, and I went into the kitchen, and my mother-in-law says, I left this plate here for Dave if he wants something to eat. And I was like, okay. Then I said, okay, whatever. And then I just kind of forgot about it. Then the next day, she's like, oh, Dave went upstairs. I was like, okay. Then she said it the third day, and I was like, Mom, who is Dave? And she's like, Dave. And I said, his name is Bill. This is after him being with us for 2 weeks. But so the whole tune is that I just called the tune that we had been playing with in the background Dave. So that's the simple version. But then you take it to the next level. And my mother-in-law had made Dave his name. That was her truth. Like she said Dave loud and kind of like you keep saying Orrin and it's Orrin. I just want to let you know. So
Thanks towards the end of the interview, second interview.
no problem. I didn't hear it until like the second time. I was like, oh, he's saying Orrin. But anyway,
that's my Baltimore accent. Everything sounds a little off.
So anyway, that's what in a lighthearted mode, that's what this tune, find like you're just committed. And she was committed to Dave. Like Dave. I'm like, who is, and she was so committed to it that it became, I never corrected her. I'm like, who is Dave? Maybe there's some, like, because there are people coming through my house all the time. It's the holiday. Maybe she meant Dave. I don't know. So that's what that tune is about. It's not specifically written. It's written for this imaginary friend named Dave. Although people think it's Dave King from the Bad Plus, and I jokingly tell him I wrote him a song, but it really just was whoever the hell Dave is.
That is a great story. That's awesome. This is weird, but are you a practicing Muslim? Because the album cover that you have, you're wearing that like the skull hat, the kind of like the braided look to it.
Now, here's the funny thing. I'm glad you caught that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple things. One, I hope my manager is listening to this because they didn't want me to use the pictures from that photo shoot, and I love it. And I don't want to say fought for it, but I was like, no, I'm sticking to it, and I'm sticking to that photo. There's some other photos, but I stuck to those photos for two reasons. One, there's always a story, and thank you for asking it. There's always a story to those any of my album covers. I go to this Irish bar in my neighborhood called McMiniman's, and I've been going there over 20 years. It's kind of like my Cheers. And I've met a lot of people. I've met people that probably have never heard a jazz concert ever in their life. And I don't talk about being a musician. I'm just Orrin when I go in there. They know I play music, but I never talk about that side because I like going in and just hanging out in that bar and met some great people. Mount Airy in Philly is just a very diverse neighborhood. Everybody lives in this neighborhood. So I've met a lot of people. And, I always get the questions of, what are you doing? How do you travel? You're a musician, blah, blah, blah. So there's one guy that I met in there. He was very quiet for maybe the first 2 or 3 years I used to go in there, and I knew him, but I knew him. His name is Carl. Very cool guy. And we were sitting there. Carl is a contractor. So he has all these different companies he's dealing with. Properties and things that he deals with. And this one day he looked at me and he said, I'm heading to Morocco for a wedding. And I was like, what? You're going to Morocco? Which was so funny to me because he was the last person I would think that would say you're getting on a plane to go to Morocco, And he's like, yeah, my wife knows this person. He's getting married. He's having his 50th birthday party in Morocco. So we're flying out for the weekend. I said, the weekend? He said, no, I extended it for a week and he was going to stay. And I said, cool. I said, man, if you get over there, grab me a hat. And I just said it in passing. I never thought he came back from Morocco and he gave me this bag, and it was like these two great Kufi looking hats.
Mhm.
So I've been wearing those, and Jeff Tane Watts gave me one. And I've been bald since I was 18, but there's times when I get on bandstands where I'm like, oh, I didn't get a chance to get a haircut, and I'm looking like Sherman Hensley from the Jeffersons. So I wear those hats. And it's funny, since I live in Philly, everyone, every time I wear the hats, think, you know, hey, that I'm Muslim, and it's not. I just really love the hats, and I, you know, love how they make me feel. So that maybe that's the universal part of just all of it, and recognizing light and life and everything. And that experience of this contractor that went to Morocco on a whim and brought me back a hat. And now that hat is on, you know, on the jazz record. And then he posted it on Facebook. He said, you know, when you give a friend a hat, and he uses it on his album cover. So, you know, a story with everything. And that's the story of that hat. And I'm glad it made the cover. And I'm glad I fought for it, because those things mean, that's how you, that's history. That's what it is. He'll never forget that hat that he bought me on his one trip to Morocco ended up on an album cover. And I'll never forget that he picked up that hat in Morocco and brought it all the way back to Mount Airy to give to me.
Yeah, how about that? All right, well, that kind of blew me away. So, so we're done with the interview. I appreciate it. It's always a great time to talk to you. So here we go. The album's called the Magic of Now. I want to say Orrin, but it's Orrin Evans.
No, you know, you got to keep the Orions in there, because it goes with the whole theme of the interview. Now you can't lose out.
All right, Orrin Evans, aka Orrin Evans. Thank you for joining me today on Something Came from Baltimore.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, great. Thanks for doing it. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Something came from Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore.